Everyone, and welcome to the Salt and Light webinar this evening. Again, unfortunately, we find ourselves in lockdown and we have to do this as a webinar. It would have been lovely to meet you all in our family meal evening, but I'm sure that we'll have plenty of time in the future to be able to catch up with that event. And we look forward to meeting you all face to face. I welcome you all this evening, but I also welcome our panelists, staff members from our college who will be speaking this evening, but also some of our special guests, students and their parents who have returned this evening to talk a little bit about their perspectives of the Salt and Light program. We are a Catholic school, and so we commence this evening with a prayer, and I invite you please to make the sign of the cross. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. And we begin with a reading from the Gospel of St. Matthew. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. This is the gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. And now we pray. God our Father, on a hillside in Galilee, your Son Jesus called us to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. And with the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. My name's Chantal Gauci and I'm the Deputy Principal at Catholic Regional College Sydney, and I'll be presenting this evening with a number of staff members from Catholic Regional College. At Catholic Regional College Sydenham, I think we do a fantastic job at catering for the needs of all students within their senior years of education. We have a number of programs which differentiate education for our students, ensuring that they are able to engage with their chosen pathway. I've worked with a number of students over the years and believe that we at Catholic Regional College Sydenham needed to identify students who are achieving at a high level, and we were able to do that using the academic testing data and working with staff members from the other Federation colleges. The students that are with us this evening, we were able to identify that they were the top 20 students, and we believed that we needed to provide them with an alternate pathway that was going to match their academic success. And so we devised the Salt and Light program. And what we've put together is a rationale for the program. And what we're hoping to do with the program is challenge students within their education while providing support and motivation so that they're able to achieve at the highest possible standard, where they may be able to achieve success and excellence and attain the goals that they set for themselves. I often use this picture of the marathon, and the reason why I use that is because unfortunately the VCE is a race. And in 2020, there were 60,000 students who are competing for an ATAR score, which is the score that's achieved at the end by students who undertake a scored VCE pathway. For students, only the top 10% can achieve an ATAR score of above 90. And looking at all the other schools around Victoria, there are many programs which are being offered to ensure that students who have strong academic pathways are able to achieve such successes. Probably around 10 years ago now, I had the opportunity to work with some students who undertook a program which was similar to Salt and Light. And I know that Jamie's going to talk a little bit about the program. But basically what we're offering students is that they are able to undertake 2 Unit 3-4 subjects in Year 12. And there's a range of benefits, in Year 11, and there's a range of benefits in allowing students to be able to undertake a program like that and therefore compete against the 60,000 other students who are trying to get an ATAR score of 90 or above. Jamie, I'll hand over to you now.
Thanks, Chantal. I am able to be heard. My name's Jamie Mason. As Chantel said, I'm Assistant Principal here at Catholic Regional College Sydenham. I thought I'd start by just kind of pointing out the fact that a significant number of our students who were involved in this program over 2019 and 2020 were in that kind of top echelon of our results last year. Our two former students speaking tonight were members of the 90+ group last year. So and as was our college ducks. So we don't have a huge amount of data, to be honest. Last year was the first year of graduating students in this program, but clearly there is some advantage to many of the students that were involved, and I'll get some of our former students to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So the program itself, as Chantel said, students can undertake 2 Unit 3-4 subjects in Year 11. And there's an advantage there, a number of advantages. One is that it gives students an understanding of the nature of Unit 3-4 subjects, and particularly the nature of assessment at that level. The assessment at Unit 3-4 is different to Unit 1 and 2 in that it's far more VCAR examination driven. So they will get the opportunity to undertake VCAR exams at the end of 2022. And probably more importantly than that, it gives the students an opportunity when they're in Year 12 to only complete 4 subjects rather than 5. So the majority of students in Year 12 at CRC Sydenham will complete 5 scored subjects. And the opportunity to have that kind of slightly less of a load does give students a chance to delve more deeply into those 4 subjects in Year 12. There is an RE component, but we're able to be a little bit more flexible in the way that we ask students to complete RE over the 2 years. Some students actually choose RE as an option as a scored option, but a number of students will opt to do, I guess, their RE in Year 12 rather than Year 11. And I'll get Chantel perhaps to talk a bit more about that in a moment. A bit later tonight, we'll hear from our home group teachers who are responsible for the Salt and Light group. So we do actually form a home group around the people who nominate to do Salt and Light. And there is some real benefit to that. And I'll get Marina to talk about that in a moment. As well as we try as much as possible to ensure that the students in this program have a common study time. Now, it's not always possible to do that, but the majority of those students will be involved in a study line that is catered for them. And I'll get Sophie Salibi to talk a little bit more about that. Some of our students, when they get to Year 12, decide that they might attempt to do an accelerated program. In other words, they opt to do the first part of a university course. And we're working on creating a partnership with La Trobe University. That's not formalised at the moment. However, we do have some students in Year 12 who are currently undertaking university units of work remotely. And certainly this group of students would be well placed to look at that option. And particularly given the changing nature of entry requirements, that can be a real advantage in terms of ensuring university placement when students finish school. We do have some workshops that we run from both internally and externally in terms of helping students develop problem solving and critical thinking and study skills, as well as obviously targeted pathway and counselling. If your family decides that you will be involved in this program, we will offer you the opportunity to meet with a member of our leadership team to talk more, I guess, deeply about the pathway options that are available to you. Okay, perhaps I can hand over to Marina and Sophie. So perhaps Marina first, just to talk a little bit about the home group.
Thank you, Jamie. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marina, and I am a current home group tutor for a Salt and Light cohort. So I am with the home group for their 2 years at CRC Sydenham. So they started in year 11 last year, and I was their tutor, and I will continue with them through to their end of their VCE journey this year. Some benefits, I think, from a year 11 perspective, obviously doing 2, 3, 4 subjects in year 11 does come with its challenges and its pressures. And I think it is a really nice dynamic where the home group is there to support each other and also receive support from myself and Sophie, who runs private study periods with these students. Other benefits would include the fact that we can have some really targeted focus within our home group sessions. So I do have contact with the students every day of the week. And so we do spend some time focusing on things like study skills, study habits, what they do in preparation for their assessments. So it is much more targeted to that, I guess, VCE Year 12 subject focus area. Students are also required to undertake the VCAR General Achievement Test for every year that they undertake a 3-4 subject. So students in the Salt and Light home group will obviously undertake this exam in year 11 and in year 12. And I think another benefit of that cohort being together is that we do have really targeted advice and support for that assessment throughout both of the years of VCE. So we get to go through practice exam questions in the home group and different ways that we can tackle these scored assessments. We also focus on assessment protocols so the students feel more prepared for their end of year exams with VCAR as well as their year 11 exams. So there is much more of a focus on the assessment side of things and what they need to do to achieve their absolute best. In my conversations with students in the home group, they highlight a few benefits, which include the fact that they get to have those study periods all together. So as Sophie will speak to in a moment, they do have a really clear program in terms of how they can be revising for assessments, and they get to undertake that together as a group. Other benefits include the feeling of relief that they already have completed 2 of their year 12 subjects. So getting to do only 4 subjects in year 12 is a big advantage in regards to having enough time to focus on other areas, and also having that preparation. Practice makes perfect in VCE, and so knowing how exams are run and how to study for assessments is really beneficial going into year 12. They also really like the sense of community within our home group. They are all experiencing the same thing. They are, commencing VCE together. Obviously, doing 2, 3, 4 subjects does come with a bit of stress, but they do a really good job of supporting each other. It's nice to see in the home group that the maths students will huddle together and go through some maths problems. The psychology students will sit together and test each other. So it's a really nice community environment where there is a lot of support for the students in the home group. Sophie, I will hand over to you.
Thanks, Marina. And good evening to everyone. My name is Sophie. I take the Salt and Light class for their private study block, which is a part of the program that aims at helping these students develop in a holistic manner. So I'll just explain to you what this study block looks like. It comprises of 6 study blocks a fortnight, and how the time is actually used is discussed with the students, and we come to some sort of a format that works for all of us. So it's important to note that this extra block, it's not just a private study for students to continue studying on their own, but rather it's aimed at ensuring students have a balanced work-life program. So time to exercise, time to socialize, time to take a break and step away from their work. And of course, time to be able to work collaboratively on their subjects as well, given that we know that students will be studying and working around the clock all the time individually. So it's just a little bit of a different manner to be able to approach their studies. So I'll explain to you what our program looks like this year and how we are hoping that students will be able to get quite a lot out of it, more than just private studies. So we do allow students 1 period a week of private study, and this is the time that students have to be able to work with other students in their subject areas, and also to speak with specific staff members if required. We also allow students 1 period a week of exercise and recreation to ensure that they are getting some sort of exercise in their busy schedules. So during this time, we take the students outside the classrooms, and there's different things that we do, such as team building games, friendly team sport, and sometimes we take them to the gym with a trainer as well. And finally, the last lesson of each week is aimed at mentoring and coaching. So this can include anything from class discussions about social and contemporary issues with the aim at allowing students to critically think about the world that they are about to enter into. It also includes masterclasses, which give students the opportunity to practice exam and study techniques with coaching from specific subject teachers. And at times we also bring in guest speakers that will help them with either subject specific areas or talk to them about future pathways. So as you can see, we've tried to develop a balanced program that allows these students to focus on their studies, but also ensures that each individual is giving time for other aspects of their life. And I think that students really benefit from this extra block that they have in Year 12. Thank you.
Hand over to Jenna.
Thanks, Jamie. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jenna and I am one of the assistant principals at the college. I just wanted to start, if there are any questions that have arisen for you up to this point in the evening, please do feel welcome to pop those questions in the Q&A section, and we will do our best to answer them throughout the presentation and at the end in the questions section. I think a lot of the information that has been covered this evening certainly points to the fact that Salt and Light is a program that students are invited to become a part of, because we've identified that it could be really beneficial for a select group. Some of the things to consider in undertaking this program is that it really does provide that breathing space in Year 12. Marina spoke to the way that home groups, use that particular space of time in the morning there, and the camaraderie that is created in being a part of this group that is potentially undertaking those 2 Unit 3-4 subjects in Year 12, which in turn means that they have that kind of mental challenge already overcome, that they've got those 2 subjects under their belt as they do move into Year 12, and that breathing space is created for them. I think as well, it's really important to consider as you move into the round of subject selection, what is it that you want to do? You are always going to achieve in things that you are interested in things that you are passionate about. And this should always be what drives the decision for you when you think about what you would like to study and potentially what you would like to explore after Year 12 as well. One of the benefits of being a part of the Salt and Light program is that it is 2 really intense years, but this allows it to feel more like a marathon rather than 1 year of a really intense sprint to get through Year 12. It is a short period of time. Your VCE is really not what might seem like a big amount of time now. It really is not. And it is a lot of work. And in undertaking the Salt and Light program, you do need to be realistic with yourself. Are you self-disciplined? Are you motivated? Because you need to be able to work both independently and collaboratively to get yourself to where you need to be at the end of Year 12. It's really okay to make mistakes. Nobody gets things perfect the first time that they do them. And this is a fantastic opportunity for you to use Year 11 as a learning experience for exactly what Year 12 is going to demand of you, and to get a really good indication of how a Year 12 subject, a Unit 3-4 subject runs, because you would be undertaking 2 of those in Year 11. As Marina and Sophie have spoken to, you are surrounded by peer support and collaboration at the college. You are with a group of like-minded people who are undertaking courses that are structured similarly to yours. And as such, you will become really well acquainted with that group of people. It's really important that you work towards achieving that balance, that there is a study balance in there, but you are also a young person and you should be having fun and interacting with your peers as much as you are dedicating yourself to your studies. And that is worked into the very specific home group and pastoral care program that is tailored towards the Salt and Light group. It also provides additional time for more one-on-one time with teachers and tutors, which is invaluable. In the wellbeing structure of the college, there is a plethora of opportunities for you to take up assistance, be that through additional tuition, be that through one-on-one sessions with your teachers. And as we have touched on briefly before, there is also a comprehensive wellbeing support network within the college, both through the leadership structure, but also through support services such as psychologists, learning support officers and careers counsellors that are available to students at any point that they would wish to access them.
Thanks, Jenna. I'd like to introduce a couple of our former students. Abby McGregor is a Salt and Light student, and her father Mark has been kind enough to join us. So I'll ask Abby and Mark some questions in a moment, but we also have Alicia Maddock, who was a social justice captain last year. I'm pretty sure Abby had a leadership role as well last year, and I apologise, Abby, that I didn't find out what that was. But the point of putting those positions in there is that this is not just about, you know, your own kind of pathway. We believe that by being in this program, you can show some leadership around the college and across the college. So we want you to be involved in this program, but I guess we also want you to give something back to the college. And if you have skills that will enhance the college life, we certainly would encourage you to be involved. So I'm going to ask, firstly, Alicia and Abby, and you can come in whenever you like on this. The first thing I think families might be interested in is just a bit of a recollection. If you think back to 2019, so the end of 2018, and how did you find that transition from year 10 to year 11 in 2019, and what, if any, benefits did you derive from being involved in this program? Maybe Alicia, can you start us off there?
Yeah. So I had completed units 1 and 2 psychology in my year 10. So during year 10. So I already had, I was already familiar with the school and some of the teachers. So I already had those support systems in place in terms of especially my 3-4 teacher for psychology. And just utilizing the teachers was very helpful with that transition, talking to them, discussing not only how I was feeling, but also how I can improve in my subjects, and just becoming involved in class and participating is a key thing in transitioning fluidly. So the key thing that I think helped me moving from year 10 to year 11 was talking to my teachers and getting involved in the classroom.
Thank you. And what about you, Abby? Have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, so much like Alicia, I had also completed Unit 1 and 2 psychology in year 10. So I did have that foundation and that understanding of how the school worked. But naturally, year 10 to year 11 is still a big jump. But I would say that Salt and Light was really helpful because I had a specialised homeroom of people who understood what I was going through, and also the teachers. And it meant that after I'd done my exams, when I went into year 12, I'd done it all before, and I knew what was coming. I knew what the GAT was going to be like. I knew what exams were going to be like. So in terms of that, Salt and Light in year 11 was really helpful.
Thank you. What about reservations? I mean, I'm sure there are people here now who are thinking this sounds all good, but they may have some reservations about the program. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how you worked out through your own consultation with teachers and parents, what made you make the decision to be involved in the program?
I would say that I originally was not concerned, but it seemed like it was going to be a lot of work, and it was a lot of work in some ways. But I think I was talking to you know, my parents and my teachers, and like I had discussed with them these concerns, and we'd come to the conclusion that yes, it is going to be a lot of work in year 11, but it does lighten the load in year 12. For me, I was only doing 4 subjects in year 12, which was really helpful because it allowed me to really focus on those subjects. So while I had 2 subjects completed in year 11 and I did really well in those, it also really helped me to do even better in my year 12 subjects as well.
What about you, Abby?
So like Abby said, I had some It's okay. I had some reservations, especially about the content, and just you're going from year 10 to doing a year 12 subject. So that is it's very scary if you think about it. But the key thing that I took from it, like Abby, was that yes, it's going to be difficult. However, I do have these support systems. I have this homeroom that is going through the same thing as me, that is going to encourage me to keep on trying and keep on pushing to my absolute limits and doing as best as I can. And then in year 12, I'm able to focus on those subjects, and I've lightened the workload, especially during the stressful year that it is. So at the end of the day, the benefits of doing Salt and Light for me outweighed those reservations about how difficult it might be and how also scary it was.
What about now? What's happening in your life now? How have you transitioned from school to post-school, and have you taken any of the skills that you got out of this program into what's happening now?
Currently, I'm completing a Bachelor of Biomedicine at the University of Melbourne. So I think the skills that I did gain from the Salt and Light, especially the hard work ethic and, you know, going to see your teachers and always asking questions if you're unsure, that has definitely helped me out in my university course and has helped me to keep on striving for the best that I can possibly do.
And Abby?
I'm completing a Bachelor of Psychology with honours at La Trobe University. And I would say that the Salt and Light group really helped me, like Alicia said, with my work ethic, also things like time management. I feel like it really set me up because I was, you know, I had to learn how to do that in year 11 and year 12. And I think that has really continued to be a good skill to have in university.
Thanks. And Mark, I'm going to ask you some questions now, and thanks very much for joining us. I guess from a parental perspective, can you talk a little bit about your experience and perspective with the program?
Yeah, no worries, Jamie. Just from a parent, Abby's always been a hard worker, and I think, you know, a couple of the staff have mentioned that your child does need to be dedicated and does need to be self-motivated, because I think that's a really important skill. I sat at the parent meeting a couple of years ago, and I walked out of it, and, you know, what kept ringing in my ears was it's almost a free hit, because they go into year 11, they have a try at the VCE subject, and if things go well, they go well, and if they don't go so well, they've got the following year to sort of pick it up again. So I think that's a really, really important thing to think of. You know your children, you know how hardworking they are, you know they're dedicated, and to have that conversation with them. And to me, it was a no-brainer. Like Abby and I and Abby's mum had a wonderful conversation, and we all agreed to go for it. And it worked out exceptionally well, because it did lighten her load in year 12. As she said, she only had the 4 subjects. She was with like-minded, you know, fellow students, and the support of the college was amazing. So, you know, I'm very positive about the experience, and I would recommend it to all parents.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that kind of free hit notion, because there are some students who you know, perhaps get a score at the end of year 11 in one of those subjects they feel they could have done better in, and some of those students actually decide to do that subject again. So they've been through roundabout once. They may have got, let's say they get a score in the low 30s, which is okay, but they think if I did this again, I can get that up to 40 or 45. So that does happen. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. You kind of spoke a bit about the support mechanisms at home. Can you talk us through a little bit more in regards to that?
Well, like I said, Abby has always been a self-motivated person. And, we were there to support her. So there were times that, she needed some resourcing, and it might have been, a webinar or a resource. We didn't spend, a lot of money, but we did, provide Abby with what it was that she needed to do her best. We encouraged Abby to keep up her netball. I think that was really important. So it wasn't just study, study, study. We encouraged her to go out with her friends. But, she had a dedicated sort of time that she knew that she needed to study. But we were very blessed that, Abby is the way she is. But it's about finding that balance. And I think Jenna mentioned that because, if it's all study, it can become overwhelming, but, mix it up a little bit. And but know that it is 2 years of hard work. And if you know that and you're happy to have a go, it's very beneficial.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate your insight there. Is there anything else that any of our students or Mark you wanted to add before we move on?
Just the last thing, Jamie, I think it was touched on about the homeroom. I think the homeroom is really important because these students are very like-minded. They're all generally high achievers and they want to do well. And I think, coming together every morning or wherever it may be throughout the day and the support that they got from their homeroom teachers, but also from one another, was truly a blessing.
Okay, thanks again to Mark and Abby and Alicia for your input. It's much appreciated. So we're going to open up to questions in a moment, and if you have questions, please use the Q&A function to ask us those. But just before we head there, what happens next? I guess over the next few days, we'd be hoping that as a family, you start to really strongly consider the Salt and Light program. We've invited you here because we think you can do well in that program. Your academic testing data shows that, but more importantly, I think the information that we've got from your current schools also indicate that you are suited to this program. So once you've made that decision, can you please, you'll receive an email from the principal's PA, and if you can reply to that email by the close of business this Friday to give us a further indication of your interest in this program. Once you have confirmed, we will then arrange a subject selection interview with a member of the college leadership team on Thursday, August the 5th. And by coming to that interview, we're not locking you into anything, but it just gives you a further opportunity to explore and ask questions before you commit to the program. And we will have a copy of this presentation that we'll send to you when we send you a follow-up email the next day. So as I said, we strongly encourage you to consider this. We think it is a program that can benefit you in many ways, and we think it also benefits the college. I don't know if anyone of my fellow panelists have anything to add before we throw over to questions. Okay, so I've got some questions here in the Q&A, and I'm going to ask them, and I'll ask my fellow panelists to perhaps come in and answer them if possible. So the first one is, if a student is currently undertaking a 1-2 subject in year 10 and will be part of the Salt and Light program, will they be studying 3-4 subjects in year 11? I'll start with that one. No, we would assume that one of their 3-4s will be the current 1, 2 that they're studying. So for example, if they're currently doing Unit 1 and 2 Health and Human Development, we would expect that they would do Unit 3, 4 Health and Human Development next year and pick another Unit 3, 4 subject. Which subjects can you choose? Chantel, do you want to talk to that one?
Yeah, sure, Jamie. In terms of the subjects that you can choose as your 3, 4 subjects, obviously the staff members that you're going to be meeting with during your subject selection interviews have had a lot of experience in teaching a range of different subjects across the VCE. We've obviously got an understanding of which subjects are probably going to allow you to achieve your highest in. When you're looking at those subjects, you're probably looking at things, first of all, have I done a Unit 1, 2, so the Year 11 equivalent of that subject whilst I've been in Year 10? What subjects have I gone really well in Year 10? What am I interested in? And what subjects do I need to enable me to get into the course that I desire to after I've finished Year 12? And, you know, in terms of those subjects, there's obviously a wide variety which have been completed in the past. And, you know, they've ranged from PE, health, we've got students doing biology, we've got students doing religion and society, Units 3, 4. There's a whole range of subjects that can be undertaken, but the people that you have your targeted interviews with are going to have a really good knowledge of what's going to allow you to achieve at your highest possible standard.
The next question was about VET, and I'm happy to answer that one. And the question, I think, says, can you do one of the VET subjects as one of the 3, 4s in Year 11? The short answer is yes. Certainly, if you're currently doing a VET subject, we would encourage you to try and complete that next year. However, there are some VET subjects that count towards a score, and there are some VET subjects that don't count towards a score. So we would be, you know, if you're doing a VET subject currently that is not a scored VET, then we might need to kind of think about that. We're not saying that you wouldn't do that subject. That strategically, we want to know a little bit more about the reasons for that. But certainly, if you're doing a VET and you're enjoying it, then we would be strongly encouraging you to continue that. I don't know whether you want to add anything to that, Chantel.
No, I think, you know, in order to be able to maximise, you know, the basis of what this program is about and to attain the highest possible ATAR score, then obviously if it's an unscored VET, that's fine. You can continue with that in your 4 subjects, but in order for it to be a Unit 3, 4, it has to be a scored VET. And so you're looking at things there like VET sport and recreation could possibly be one, IT, VET IT, VET business, VET lab skills. They're some of the scored VETs which continue to work, enabling people or enabling students to get an ATAR score.
Jenna, do you want to answer this one, or someone else can answer this one? Do you need to study during the school holidays?
In short, yes. Whether you are a part of the Salt and Light program or otherwise, the VCE, your Year 11 and 12 years, all will come with a component of work that needs to be completed outside of timetable classes, and particularly on school holidays as well. Certainly, whilst the Salt and Light program has times built in where you will be able to access that support at school, yes, absolutely. Somebody in the Salt and Light program would be needing to undertake study, revision, consolidation throughout the school holidays. I think it's also important to note in there as well that you would be doing Unit 3, 4 subjects, which means that you would also be a part in Year 11 of the Unit 3, 4 practice exams, which take place over the September school holidays as well.
And do the Salt and Light students have just their own study period, or are they you know, do they have others as well? I think it says, do we have study periods with the rest of the school, or just our Salt and Light homeroom? I don't know whether Sophie or Marina or Jenny.
Is it okay if I start a little bit with that, Jamie? Sorry.
Please do.
I think that this type of question and the questions surrounding it are are often a great concern for year 10s as they're coming into year 11. And I don't think it's always just about study periods. I think too, it's about their other classes and whether or not I'm going to still have contact with my friends. And the short answer to that is yes. You know, although you're in a home group with the Salt and Light students, the rest of your classes are going to be with the rest of the cohort. And you know, you're still going to be able to see, you know, colleagues, friends at recesses and lunchtimes and in these classes. In terms of the study periods, I suppose it's a very varied response because it's in relation to the type of religious education program that you choose. So in terms of religious education, there's a number of different ways, but the absolute minimum requirement for religious education is the fact that students need to complete at least one unit across 4 years. So you do one unit every half year. So they need to complete one unit of school-based religious education across the 2 years. So it's essentially half a year of RE. Now, if you choose the bare minimum, you end up with quite a bit of private study, which is, and the reason why we chose to implement that is because private study is really a necessity for these students. When you're choosing that option, you've got some component where you're working with the rest of the Salt and Light group, and the other component is where you're working just privately in private study. So yes, you're with the rest of the school when you choose that option.
Does anyone want to add to that? Okay, and the last question I saw was something like, I'll read it again. It says, will the 3-4 subjects be with the year 12s? I think that's kind of a similar question to what Chantel was talking about. If you're doing a Unit 1-2 subject at CRC Sydenham this year, then we endeavour as much as possible to keep those classes together as work into year 11 as a kind of cohort or group, and that can work for us. But if you're doing a 3-4 subject at your current school, it's more difficult for us to do that because we'll have students coming from 3 different campuses. It's kind of a numbers game there for us. So we can't guarantee that if you, for example, if you're doing biology currently as a 1-2, we couldn't guarantee that everyone in your class would be in year 11. We would try to make that happen, but we couldn't guarantee it. I don't know whether anyone else wants to add to that.
I think sometimes we do designate specific subjects where it's just all year 11 students. And I suppose, as Jamie said, the numbers dictate that. So in the past, we've had solely based year 11 students doing Unit 3-4 business management together. We've had the same for further maths. We've had a health and human development class like that as well. But quite often it is a mixture of students. And what we've actually found is that it can be quite beneficial having a mixture of students, because in actual fact, what ends up happening is that the year 12s are able to act in a mentor way to the year 11s, showing the students what they are going to be having to go through in the next year. So it actually works quite positively when there is a mixture of students in the classroom.
Could I add to that if I can? I completed 3-4 biology in year 11, and I was in a class completely full of year 12s, and it sounds scary, but I just sat down, said, "Hi, my name's Alicia," and it is much more beneficial having those year 12s there, because they were, like Chantel said, able to guide me and help me in structuring my questions for exam format, because they were familiar with this. So it sounds very scary when you think about it, going into a class full of year 12s, but at the end of the day, they are willing to help. If you sit down and say, "Hi, my name's Alicia, I'm in year 11, I'm completing this subject," they are more than willing to help you and study with you and get to know you, if you just take that chance to say hi.
Thanks, Alicia. That's a good insight. I think someone else, my dogs are making a noise. Is it correct to say that there are 6 subjects for Year 11, which include RE and English, and therefore 4 subjects to be selected? I think that's a good question. I don't know if anyone else wants to answer that one. So, yeah, my understanding is yes, students will. I'm going to have to add. Someone else is going to have to answer this question.
I just want to clarify, is it 7 subjects or 6 subjects, Jamie, that students do in Year 11?
Is it correct to say that there are 6 subjects for Year 11, which
Is
include
6?
RE and English, and therefore only 4 subjects other than those can be selected?
Is it 6 subjects in Year 11 or 7 that the students choose?
It's 6. Sorry, 6. Yeah.
Yep. So
Well,
basically,
when I say that, it's the equivalent of 6. So it could be like a half RE, half health.
So it's correct in saying that there are 6 subjects that we get to play with. English or English language have to be the subject. You need a language subject. That's a determinant from VCA, who's the governing body. And then that's where we start to look at the religious education subject, and we say, okay, is religious education something that you are extremely interested in completing? Or is that an area where we may be able to move your 1 unit and do that in Year 12, for instance, and therefore use that block as a private study? And then, yes, you've got 4 other subjects which need to be selected, and 2 of those need to be a Unit 3-4 subject. You know, we're quite inventive and ingenious in the way that we put these programs together, and I don't think we've had one student yet that we haven't been able to find a combination of subjects which are going to prepare them for the next year, allow them to ensure that they have all their prerequisite studies, or not have the opportunity to engage with their interest levels. So I'm pretty confident that we can accommodate all students there.
Yeah, I'd back that up. We will work very closely with you to ensure that the course that you get meets your needs. So we do have some flexibility there.
I think that I'd just add to that, there very much is not a one approach or one size fits all when I think it comes to enrolling in the Salt and Light program, and those types of questions and those types of decisions can certainly be made. As Jamie and Chantel have spoken about, the enrolment process is with you know, one designated staff member who can work through those issues with you.
Can you do religion as one of the 3-4s in Year 11? Yes, you can. Yeah, I mean, if that's your passion and interest, that's a really good choice, because it kind of knocks off the RE component as well as getting one of those 3-4s. So certainly, if you feel that that's one of your passions and an area that you'd like to explore, that really does work very well.
I know that when I run subject selection interviews, I always ask the students, you know, do you have good analytical skills? Do you have good comprehension skills? And if the answers to those are yes, then I do suggest, you know, undertaking the Unit 3-4 religion and society unit. I suppose that religion and society have those transferable skills which can be or work really well alongside English, but also some of those humanities and history-based subjects. So it can be a really viable option for students. Jamie, I think there was another question from Susan in the chat, and I think it's a really good one actually. Will completing 2 Unit 3-4 subjects negatively impact the Year 11 subjects, as more emphasis will be placed on these? What has the school seen?
Sorry, I can't see that one. Is that in the chat, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll read it again.
So Susan, I suppose, you know, we've been working with students in this program now for 3 years, and especially at the end of the year, we always see that the Unit 3-4 subjects are always going to take priority for those kids, because they're working as much as possible to maximise their study score in that subject. But to date, I haven't seen any of the students who have absolutely switched off from their Year 11 subject. I think that basically what happens is that these students develop very, very quickly ways of studying, taking notes, completing homework. Their organisational skills are quite good, and therefore they're still able to manage their Year 11 program. And quite often the Year 11 subjects that they've chosen are really subjects that they're extremely interested in, and so they're keeping quite attentive in class and able to manage the workload quite well. Others?
Abby or Alicia, did you have any perspective there from a student's viewpoint, sort of starting the Salt and Light program, how you found that balance between your 1-2 subjects and your 3-4 subjects?
I would just say that, like Chantel said, you do prioritise the 3-4 subjects, obviously because you want to do well in them. But I found that I did really enjoy my Unit 1 and 2 subjects as well. So naturally, you know, you do want to do well in them as well. I would say that just at the end of the year, I was doing my Year 12 exams, and I did have to put them first. But obviously that didn't mean that I was like failing Year 11 or anything like that, because I think doing subjects that you like is going to be the most beneficial thing, because it allows you to really want to do the work. And I would say that was the most important part of doing my Year 12 subjects as well.
Thanks, Abby.
The next question is it possible to take math methods 3-4 next year with specialist 1-2 and still do specialist 3-4 in Year 12 without any math methods? I'll start off and probably hand over to others as well. I'm assuming that you are doing 1-2 methods now. I don't think it would be wise to attempt 3-4 math methods without 1-2. But once that pattern has been achieved, then you would do specialist 1-2, and then you could move into specialist 3-4 in Year 12. That is certainly possible. Anyone else want to add to that one?
I suppose for me, these types of subject selections are something that I'm extremely passionate about, being a maths teacher. Some of the things that we've actually seen over the last couple of years in terms of students undertaking math methods 3-4 in Year 11 and then doing specialist the following year, is that it can make things quite difficult, because when you're doing specialist maths, you have to love mathematics, and undertaking specialist maths, it's actually really good to be doing the 2 subjects concurrently, because there are certain units which are taught across both subjects, and so they work together quite well. And if you've got a 12-month gap between what's being studied in methods and what's happening in specialists, sometimes you can get a little bit rusty. We've seen students achieving quite well in both areas, doing it in separate years, but I know that as a maths faculty and as maths teachers, we strongly believe that if the 2 subjects were done by a particular student in the same year, then those scores would probably be higher. And, you know, there's been a number of schools in Victoria who have actually tried doing advanced mathematics with methods earlier, and they have stopped doing that for those reasons. Sophie?
Yeah, I would agree. Also, being part of the maths faculty, depending on how much you love the subject and how much you can retain from year to year. I know that students, when I bring something up in Year 11 or Year 12 and I'll say, you learnt this last year, I do get a lot of blank faces because you do forget over time. But if you are really passionate about the subject and you feel like you can retain that material from year to year, it is possibly something you can try. But I would say that in general, the best suggestion would be to try to complete those 2 subjects concurrently. And I have a class at the moment of Math Methods 3-4, and half of those students are year 11, and I only have one out of all of those students who's also taking specialists, 1-2 at the same time. All the other students are only taking 3-4, and possibly for those reasons that Chantal mentioned.
I think the other thing too to keep in mind is that a lot of the skills that you're learning in Math Methods are also transferable to some of the other subjects that you're doing. And especially if you're one of those students who may be interested in doing physics, for instance, a lot of the maths across those two subjects run concurrently as well. So it can have a little bit of an impact upon the success rate. So whilst we do have a class running, we try as much as possible to ensure that students are aware of that, and definitely conversations that we can have at subject selection time.
Sorry, the next question is, does the 1 RE unit count as a full subject? I think that means, I think you're saying there, if you do 1 unit of RE in year 11, what we can sometimes do there is structure it so that you have half of your time doing RE across the year and half of your time as a study session. That's one way. I think that's the nature of your question. If it's not, can you ask me a further question? We do have year 11 students who do that. We have some year 11 students in this program who don't do any RE in year 11 and do their RE unit in year 12, but that means that they need to do one of our BCE units. I guess the kind of nitty gritty of this would be, we would be endeavouring to nut that out with you when we have a subject selection interview. But as we said before, we work very closely with you to ensure that your study design is meeting your needs. Another question on RE is, if we do a 3-4 RE in year 11, do we still have to do RE in year 12? Do we have to do RE in year 12? That's sort of the same question. Those of you that are involved in the program now, so Marina or Chantal or Jenna or Sophie, can you answer that question? Do you want me to repeat it? The question is, if we do unit 3-4 RE in year 11, so let's say you did Religion and Society next year, do you still have to do RE in year 12?
No, the short answer to that question is no.
Yes, I was going to say, if I've interpreted that correctly, no, because you would have both covered your religious education component and you would have also covered a 3-4 subject in a double whammy.
That wouldn't preclude you from doing something like RE and art as a kind of elective in year 12 if you really wanted to, but we wouldn't be insisting on that.
Can I just add, Jamie, I think that, at the foundation of the program that Sophie runs with those kids is that we still try and ensure that students have opportunities to do things like social justice activities and some type of faith linkage activity, because not only are we a Catholic school, but we also recognise that the nature of university applications are changing over time, and ensuring that students have bulked up their resumes for whatever is going to happen in terms of university entrance programs and what universities want to see, and what we might need to do in terms of applying for scholarships. We can ensure that students have all of those facets to prepare them.
The last question, oh no, there's more questions coming. Next question was, could I please ask with regards to the exclusive workshops, when would they take place? Is it during school? Sophie, Marina, can you help us there?
Within the program, we can run, or we do have some workshops or guest speakers that come in, and they'll come in various times throughout the year. I'm not sure though if there's any external workshops that also happen, because I look after the block itself, but we do try to have some workshops within the study block.
This one, is it possible to do specialist methods, biology 3, 4? So I think you're talking here about in their second year. I think, Jana, you're talking about the second part of this program in year 12. Is it possible to do specialist methods, biology and chemistry all at 3, 4 and still choose vet religion, so the applied RE, which requires a lot of going out? I'll have a go at answering this one and then I'll throw over to other people. I think I'm understanding your question right. You can choose applied RE as your RE option in this program. There's a couple of things to think about, and one of them is that you've already kind of recognised that there is a bit of time out of school involved in camping, etc. And the other one is that the applied RE is not going to get a score. However, it will count for a 10% increment in your ATAR calculation. Again, I would be sitting down with you and talking through the reasons for wanting to do your applied RE. I think there are great reasons to do it. I think there's lots of benefits that come out of that program. But we'd want to kind of make sure that it fits your needs. Anyone else want to add to that one?
No, I think you're right in what you said there, Jamie. It is that is a very academically rigorous program, and obviously applied RE does require a considerable amount of time away from the college. So there's just a lot of things, I suppose, to consider in making that decision.
We'll perhaps just wait for another minute or so, or half a minute, if there are any other questions you might want to type in now. I guess while you're contemplating that, I'd just like to formally thank all of our panelists for being here, particularly those of you who are not at the school anymore. We really appreciate that, but we also appreciate everyone's time and effort in being here. And thank you as parents and students for taking the time to find out more about this program. As we've said, and all of us have said, we really do want you to strongly consider this. We think there's a lot of benefit to you as a student and as a family. However, we certainly don't want to railroad you into making a decision or do something that you don't feel comfortable with. So the next step, I think, is hopefully you can email a reply to an email that you'll receive tomorrow to say that you'd like to attend one of the interviews on the 5th of August. And once you get to that point, we'll be able to sit with you more individually, answer questions, find out a little bit more about your needs and strengths, and then hopefully nut out a program that is going to work for you. I don't know if any other panelists want to add to that before we finish. There is one more question now. So why might the 3-4 subject that you choose in year 11 be a passion subject? Can you kind of elaborate on that? I think what you're saying there is...
I think that I may have spoken about, a subject that you're passionate about, and what we usually see is that when students are passionate about a subject that they do, then they're more likely to engage with the subject. They're probably going to go home and do the homework for that subject first. They're probably going to do more extensive reading for that subject. They're probably going to try and engage in more question and answers and practice examination questions, and therefore that gives them a really good grounding in terms of ensuring that they get a good score for the subject, but also ensuring that they work really well with the teacher, develop those relationships that are going to ensure success.
Okay, well, thank you again for all of your time. We hope that we will see you face to face or perhaps remotely on August the 5th. If you've got any more questions that you'd like to ask us, please use the email that you receive tomorrow. You can certainly reply to that email and fire off any questions, and we'll endeavour to answer them as best we can. Have a great evening.